What's up, guys, and welcome to the Scoop Troop, where we talk about everything entertainment, including movies, TV, and video games. My name is Marcos, and I'm here with my good friend Jacob. What do you have for us today?
Well, today we are going to talk about the House of the Dragon trailer breakdown. And before we get into that, we're going to talk about some news, which includes a Stray review roundup and a Nope review roundup. But first, Marcos, what have you been up to?
I started a show called Station 11 on HBO Max. It's one that you've been recommending to me for a while. To sum it up, it's a post apocalyptic show. And from watching it, it got me pretty excited for the new Last of Us show that HBO is putting together right now. Just seeing the sets and the way that they designed everything, it looks very The Last of Us. You honestly could kind of swap out some of those scenes and probably would look just like The Last of Us.
Yep.
So that definitely has me excited. Besides that, I think that's it. I haven't watched or played anything new. I'm planning to maybe go and see Nope one of these days. And I've been wanting to check out that movie Late Night in Soho or Last Night in
Oh,
Soho.
yeah, from HBO right now, right?
Yeah, I had wanted to see it in the theaters, but we never went and saw it. So now that it's on there, I might check it out. What about you?
Well, first, before you get into that, let me talk to you about Station 11. What do you think about the lead actors right now? The little girl and I guess the older girl and then the guy.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll get into spoilers, but without getting into spoilers, I really
Nah,
like
you're in the first
the
episode. There ain't nothing to spoil.
I really like the dynamic of the younger girl and that I don't know the name of the actor, but like the Arab dude.
Yeah.
Uh,
Jeevan.
they have a really cool dynamic. I thought it was interesting how she kind of gets just thrown on him. The whole
Yep.
dynamic of the older guy with the younger guy. The whole back and forth, 2 years, 20 years, present day type of thing is pretty cool too. It definitely leaves you wondering like what's going on. Where's this person? Why are they not here? How did they get here? Those types of questions. So the mystery aspect of it is pretty fun. And I also like the actor that plays the girl when she's older.
Mm-hmm.
I think she definitely embodies the whole I grew up before this and lived through it. And I think even one of the supporting characters comments on it, like you can tell you have that edge of
The
having
day
been.
one edge, I think is what they
Yeah,
call it, or something like
yeah.
that. Yeah,
So
dude.
I really like the way they played her too. Definitely reminded me of Allie when she's older. Very Last of Us.
Yeah, it's great. It's very it's a heavy hitting show, I think. It's like it's not afraid to hold back. It's going to talk about themes that I think like something like The Last of Us is going to talk about with trauma and stuff like that and revenge maybe. And it's just something where you end up loving all the characters so much and rooting for them so much that like they get put into these situations where you're like, I really hope nothing happens to them. So yeah, I actually hope The Last of Us is as good as Station 11 because it was probably my favorite show last year. And actually, the lead actor, I think his name is Hamish, like Patel. I think. Maybe that's not right. I don't know. I can't remember. But
I
he's
think that's
actually
the
up.
other Arab guy.
Yeah, that's the one
Mad
from the Green
Max.
Knight. No,
Yeah.
something like that. Okay. Well, he is actually up. The guy for Station 11 is up for an Emmy for like lead actor.
Oh
So
wow. For Station
that's
11.
mm-hmm, that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Anything else?
No, that's about it. I've definitely been caught up in all of the trailer hype that's been coming out with Comic Con, mainly with the Lord of the Rings trailer that just dropped today. Which to comment on that one really quick, I loved compared to the previous trailers that we've gotten. I think this one gave a little bit more of the tone that they're going for, a little bit more of the quality of like the sets and the costumes. Going from the last trailer to this one, I definitely feel they stepped up. They fleshed everything out a bit more. And yeah, I'm actually really excited for that one now. I was talking to my wife, Diana, and she's more excited for that one than she is House of the Dragon. She thinks those trailers have gotten her more hyped than this one has.
Well, actually, we have Lord of the Rings news in our news section, so we can touch on that a little bit later. But before we get into that specifically, I wanted to talk about what I watched about 2 days ago, and that is Ghost in the Shell. And
Yeah.
all I've been thinking about the past 2 days. When I first watched it, I was like, okay, like it was cool. It's definitely different than I don't really like anime. I'm not gonna lie, I just don't. It's definitely different than most of the animes I've seen. Didn't even feel like anime at all. Like no tropes, nothing like that, except for like the over sexualization of main characters. Like first scene, she's naked, and I'm like, all right, I guess that's how it's gonna start. But I mean, I guess you could say that's in a lot of stuff now, not just anime. But yeah, so it finished, and I was like, okay, like that was a good story, and it wasn't bad. And then I finished it, and I was like, man, like really wish I could go back into that world. And then I just kept thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? That was actually a really cool story, and it's grown since there. It's like festered, so I'm actually watching the series, which it can't capture what the movie did. I guess the budget that is it's given and the art style that the series is in versus the movie. But yeah, I've been all about it, man. I
It's
really
very
like that movie.
cyberpunk, right?
Yeah, it's extremely cyberpunk, and it's not just the world that's cyberpunk. The story is very sci-fi too. Like its story is as like high concept as like Blade Runner 2049 story, which I love that movie, and they reminded me a lot of each other. And then I watched that movie Ghost in the Shell because I've been playing cyberpunk, so I was just in like it's just been a vibe, man, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was trying to find that one on like Amazon or something, but like you said, it's not on streaming, so maybe I'll rent it. I've been kind of craving a anime movie that just has a vibe to it. So,
It's three. You could buy it for $3 right now on Xbox. It's
oh
on
wow,
sale for whatever reason, which is actually cheaper than the rent. And I would
anime
recommend
month.
it.
I
Is
think
it
it's
that what it
anime month.
is? Oh, okay. Yeah. So I would highly recommend it. I actually want to get the Blu-ray now, so that's how much I liked it, man. Like it was really good. The art style was amazing. It just it was like it put every other anime I've seen to shame with its what it did with cinematography. It reminded me a lot of Arcane, where Arcane is animated, but it feels like there was a cinematographer making the shots and like controlling a camera. So
Hmm.
that just really I think that's what got me the most. And then I finished Dune Messiah, and I'm kind of like in a post depression from that book. Uh I would have to say, like, not to get too deep into it, but probably one of the best endings of a story I've ever read. Like I know there's more Dune books. I don't want to get them right now because I'm like I don't want to spoil that ending. Like that was perfect to me. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Well, transitioning to the news. First things first, we're gonna start up with some review roundups. I was gonna try to find some like I don't know written reviews, but I just figured I'd give you the main scores and we can kind of talk about what we're gonna think of them if we're gonna check them out or not. So first up, Stray, the PS5 exclusive. I think it comes out on PC too. For PlayStation came out, and well on Metascore, I think, or is it? Oh, I'm sorry, Metacritic. It
Metacritic.
has, yeah. I was like, what? That's not right. It has an 84 right now for the critic review, which is the Metascore, and an 8.9 user score right now. So honestly, that's a lot better than I thought it was gonna be before it came out, because it's just that simple. Like you're a cat, and it looks like I'm guessing a platform adventure game. So yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Would you check it out? Do you think that's a score that catches your attention to be like, maybe I will check it out?
Yeah, it does. I remember seeing the trailers for it during the like E3 releases, and I thought it looked really cool. I really liked the cyberpunky type atmosphere that it had. It was a lot different than I thought what they were going to go for with it. I think it does have the platformer aspects, which I think is cool because it makes it more accessible to like general gamers. uh, so
I don't know,
yeah, I
man.
mean,
Platformers can get pretty hard sometimes.
I haven't played any of the really hard ones. I've played like Hollow Knight. I played Ori,
Did you
which I need to
beat
go back
Hollow
to those.
Knight? I feel like Hollow
No,
Knight's pretty hard.
I never beat Hollow Knight. I have it on the Switch. It was cool. I didn't get super far into it though. But I know Stray, what caught a lot of people's attention was the cat. Everybody saw it and was like, "What, a game about a cat?" uh,
Yeah, does look cute.
so yeah, I believe I checked and it was $30, I think.
Hmm.
Which I would say that's probably the biggest thing holding me back. Maybe if I look into some more gameplay, watch some reviews on it, it could convince me. But for now, if it was like $15, okay, maybe I wouldn't mind so much. I think I just need to see more about it. But those scores definitely make me look twice at it and want to maybe go and watch some of those.
It is available on PlayStation's second tier, which I believe is called PlayStation Plus Extra. Um, and I think that is what it is to me. I don't have PlayStation Plus at all, so I don't have access to this game for quote free. But this is what, like, I always call games now that I see sometimes like that's a Game Pass game. Totally, if I had PlayStation Plus, that's a PlayStation Extra game, I guess you could say. Like, whereas I'm not buying that, but it looks cool enough to where if it was on a subscription service that I'm paying for, I would give it a shot, and I might end up loving it. But just from what I can see, to me, it's not a game that I personally would be willing to dish out money for, unless like, and even if it got tens out of tens, dude, I just wouldn't. Doesn't attract me enough to spend that money. So yeah, I guess that's kind of a bummer. But I mean, good for it. It looks like it's doing really good, and I believe it's Steam's number one selling game right now. So that's pretty cool.
Good for them.
Moving on, we have the Nope review roundup, which is Jordan Peele's third movie. And before we get into the scores, I don't think, I mean, we're young, but I don't think I've ever seen a director have two movies and he sells movies now. That is insane. Like, before the Nope trailer starts, it says Jordan Peele. Like, that is insane. Not an actor's name, not like the plot or whatever or IMAX. It's Jordan Peele, a Jordan Peele film, and he's three
Pretty
movies
cool.
in. That's impressive, and I don't know, like, and his stuff is original. Like, I think he makes the story. What do they call it? Like an auteur, whatever. And that's just like, it's not franchise work, and he sells, dude. He sells. That's pretty awesome. So on Rotten Tomatoes, it has an 82 critic score and a 76 audience score. I don't really put too much like weight into reviews for movies because I like to go experience for myself, especially if I already know I'm going to watch it like Nope. But it seems to be getting a pretty good response. I've heard that it's kind of like it might be divisive, but it's barely Friday when I check that. So like, it's kind of tough. That's not a whole weekend of people seeing it, but it already has 500 plus audience reviews as of Friday. So that's pretty crazy to me. So that's good.
It's
And
pretty
it's
good.
also started off with a estimated $45 million at the Thursday and Friday box office, which is pretty standard. Not pretty standard, pretty okay. I think it's gonna make money. I'm pretty sure, especially because I've been seeing it received well. You gonna check that one out? I think you said you were planning to or trying to.
I want to. I haven't seen anything spoilery on it, but I do like to look at the Rotten Tomato scores kind of to set my mindset on how I need to think about the movie to an extent. So like, is this a more criticky movie, a little more artsy, a little more reflective, or is it more of an audience movie, which I feel has less of those art house type elements? So what I've heard about this one, I don't know anything story wise. I've heard that it is a little slow beginning, kind of a slow burn, and you might like or dislike some of the main plot points that happen later on in the movie. Uh, that's pretty much all I've really heard about it, though. So I think it looks interesting. I have never actually seen a Jordan Peele movie.
Wow, I'm
Yeah,
actually shook right now. That is
yeah, I know.
insane.
I've never seen Get Out. I never saw Us. So I don't know.
That's like
Maybe
that's like something where I would tell you like we're stop recording right now and you're gonna go watch Get Out. I love that movie.
yeah, I
Us,
need to.
I can like I just the thing at the end wasn't for me. I didn't really click with that, but I really appreciate his movies because it reminds me of I think it's New Year's Eve where they do like the Twilight Zone marathon. Like his movies just remind me of like full length Twilight Zone episodes
Mhm.
with a big budget and just like he's just good at what he does. Like he sets the vibe. They're like not scary, but just like unsettling, I guess.
Yeah.
He has a vibe.
Yeah, I got to check him out. I should probably support him a bit more cuz I know he's getting up there as far as his name like you said. So,
Yeah. All right, moving on. Literally after we finished recording last episode, I went on Twitter and I saw that Dune Part 2 started filming, which I am super hyped about. Pretty far away. I believe it comes out in November of 2023, so about a year and a half. But I just felt like putting it on there because I love that movie so much.
yeah, I was thinking actually about throwing on the first one earlier, but I started Station 11 instead.
Hey,
But
it's
yeah,
okay.
Dune is a
Good
great
choice.
great movie. Both of us have read the book, and I think we both would agree that it's a pretty great adaptation of the book.
I think it's better.
If you've watched the movie, I would encourage you to read the book and vice versa. So yeah, I'm
Yeah,
excited for that
definitely.
one too. I really haven't read Dune Messiah, but from what I've heard about where the story goes and also where part 2 of the book goes, I am excited to see how they handle the story in the films. So
Yeah, it seems like the director, Denis Villeneuve. Yeah, like that's a tough name, but he seems to really care about it and be a real big fan of it. So I know he'll figure it out. Also, if you've seen Arrival, he basically
great
has
movie
already
also.
done Paul powers, so that's cool. But yeah, no, nothing else to say about that. Excited. All right, we're probably going to spend some time on this one, but the Lord of the Rings trailer dropped today, and I'm guessing it was a part of San Diego Comic Con. All
Yep.
right, so you said what you wanted to say, and I'm actually going to come back with a little. This trailer didn't wow me, man.
Really?
I've
Goodness.
I've loved everything else before this, and I don't think the trailer was bad. It wasn't like something where I'm like, oh man, but it it I I'm worried about the characters because it seems a
Uh-huh.
very plot focused story. And I'm worried. I'm like, am I gonna care about these characters right now? Because it seems like, yeah, like I hope they don't get caught up in too much of the whatever like the plot is of like, oh, like we have to have these big moments, these big moments that were in whatever the source material is, and like let it breathe with the characters. And it seemed like there's a lot of big moments in the trailer, which I think is what caught your eye. Like I think there's a part where like they're in the ocean and there's like a sea monster. It looks like.
Hmm.
So I'm hoping like it doesn't get lost in those things. It looks great. Like visually, it looks phenomenal. Um, so yeah, I just kind of was like a little like, all right, like I hope there's some emotional weight in there where I can get attached to these characters. But that's
Yeah, I
about it.
think as time has gone on and me and you have watched more movies and trailers, I think you seem to appreciate subtlety. You like for things to
Hmm.
have more subtlety, more nuance to it than for it to be very in your face. And yeah, I could see how this trailer was more in your face. I do think the music stood out to me a lot. I was listening to it on our speakers on our TV, and I remember I was like, man, that sounds sick. And
Hmm.
they did bring back the original composer for Lord of the Rings to do the music for the show. So that stood out for me right away. I think I even rewinded it and listened to a part because I was like, that sounds so cool. So that definitely stood out. And like you said, it looks very high quality, especially compared to like Wheel of Time. If you were to compare both of these, you can tell like they definitely gave more money to this.
Well,
Um,
to be fair though, the Wheel of Time trailer looked pretty damn good. Like if I
mhm.
remember correctly, like it did not look. And honestly, overall, I think the show looked well. I think
It's that CGI, man.
they tried to do too much stuff out of the budget.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, I'm still excited for it. I just think the trailer didn't wow me or anything.
Hmm.
I'm just hoping it's solid. We
Yeah.
might do a trailer breakdown of that. And then finally, I don't know if you've been keeping up with this, but The Last of Us Part 1 remake got leaked and people had some thoughts, man. There was like I guess a early build or a build that got leaked that showed that none of the gameplay had been reworked, and which is something apparently Naughty Dog promised. And people were tearing them apart on Twitter. And
man.
well, before we recorded this, I think like last night or something, Naughty Dog ended up, doing some PR stuff, and I guess they had like a video showing like their gameplay. So they put that out, and to me personally, it looks like a remake. It doesn't look like it plays like The Last of Us 2, which I don't know if that's what people wanted. I don't buy remakes and stuff like that. I rather spend money on a new game, so it doesn't really matter to me. But something I think is like Naughty Dog gets so much hate, dude. Like I feel so bad for them. They've arguably been one of the best video game producers for years now, and I just feel like they just get so much hate that you don't see other studios getting.
Well, I didn't see when it had leaked, but I did watch some of the little like remake trailer thing. Are you sure it's a remake or is it a
It's a
remaster?
remake. It's a remake.
So two problems then. One, I heard that it's $70. There's no way I would pay $70 for that unless I had never played it. I would recommend like if you never played Last of Us, it's worth the $70. You wouldn't regret it. So that one's a big problem for me is the price. And also, I feel you got to be a little careful about putting the word remake on something because I like we've seen the level of remake of some of these games that have come out like Final Fantasy 7. That's a remake, man. Like you look at the original, you look at what they made, that is completely redone. But The Last of Us, I mean, graphically maybe it'll run a little smoother, but you're not like changing the entire
Nah, actually,
ideology of it.
I saw like visually and world design wise. I've seen pictures, and it looks like The Last of Us Part 2.
Mhm.
And I think maybe something that hurts it a little bit is that The Last of Us on PS3 was probably one of the best looking games of that generation. So like
Yep.
it's not like, oh, Resident Evil 2 versus Resident Evil 2 and it was like pixelated, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it is a pretty fresh remake that we've ever seen. Um the time between them. Uh
Mhm.
but also like I don't know, like I don't buy these things enough. Like I wouldn't buy a remake. I think the only game that I bought twice is Skyrim because I had it in the 360, got rid of it, and then like the special edition came out with everything on the Xbox One, and I bought that one. That's the
Mhm.
only game I think I've ever bought twice. So to me, this stuff doesn't bother me. $70. I mean, I don't like the price point, but I know some people will. Some people love that game like enough to do it. So like, hey man, like treat it as like a collector's edition, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like the price point I can't fight with because like if you don't like the price point, don't buy it. Nobody's forcing you to buy it. Um, the remake aspect of it, to me, dude, it looks amazing. I can't. I don't know. Like,
I'm just not sold on it being classified as a remake. I
well,
feel it could be a really good remaster, but it's
uh,
not at the level of a remake.
if like I saw pictures of like the face, like a
Mhm.
face cutscene from the original to now, and like the characters almost don't even look recognizable because of how much like work has
Mm.
been done to them and their facial animations. Like,
Plastic surgery.
yeah, it looks actually they look worse. They look like more grimy. I think a lot of them looked a little too perfect before.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean
Because
it.
to me, remake territory is like when you're overhauling RPG elements, you're overhauling game systems, you're overhauling the combat system. Like that to me is remake
So
level.
apparently that's what I'm saying. Where like the combat doesn't look like Last of Us Part 2. Where you can like crawl and go under things and um yeah, stuff like that, like the traversal of it. But there was a video where they're like, no, like we changed AI behavior. We changed like your companion AI behavior. We changed the way like recoil works and all that stuff. So I mean, I don't know if people that's what I'm saying. I don't care. Like I don't personally care, but I don't know if people wanted it to play like Last of Us 2 and it doesn't. And I'm also like, I don't know if they needed it to play like Last of Us 2, like I don't know
Mhm.
because I don't know what the expectations were. And
I
maybe
don't.
Naughty Dog messed up by like not clarifying them, but like to me, like it looks amazing. Like I can't. Like, would I pay $70 for it? No, but I can't be like, ah, that's a cash grab, which are what a lot of people are saying. When I'm like, it looks amazing. It looked like, you see buildings, they look completely different. There's like stuff there that wasn't there before. So it's
Hmm.
like, I don't know, man. It's not just like running at a higher res. Like, it looks redone.
I don't know if you remember. I think this was with you, but you weren't supposed to be able to hurt Allie, I believe, in the original on the PS3. Like if you try to shoot her or anything, like you can't shoot Allie. But for some reason, we were playing, and I think we're in some town near the end of the game, and we lit her on fire.
Oh my god, I don't remember that.
Yeah, was it with you? Yeah,
I
so
don't
we're
know.
playing it, and you can never hurt Allie. And I think I had like a Molotov, and I was like, I'm just gonna throw it at her, and I threw it at her, and it lit her on fire, and she started like screaming.
Dang.
But I thought that was with you, but I guess not. All right.
All right, well, jumping in, the House of the Dragon trailer breakdown. First, before we get into it, just give me your general thoughts, Marcos. What did you think of this trailer?
So, as I mentioned in the last episode, I've been reading the Game of Thrones books. So, I've definitely been full on immersed in this world at a very deep level. So, when the trailer came out, as I'm reading the books, I'm looking for like every little name drop, every little reference to this different time. So, when the trailer dropped, I was obviously very invested. I wanted to go and read up about all these characters and these dragons. And so, yeah, it really got my attention. I'm really excited for the show. What about you?
I liked it. I think it was a good trailer. Um, I think it really emphasized what the show was going to be about, which I was happy with because I was a little. I know nothing of this. I've read Game of Thrones, all the books, haven't read any of the side stuff, so I know nothing of this. And this was like, okay, like I have a footing on what this is. Looks like I know what they're going to focus about. So I'm going to start with a quote. The dream, it was clearer than a memory, and I heard the sound of thundering hooves, splintering shields, and ringing swords, and I placed my heir upon the throne, and all the dragons roared as one. I think, like, whoa, what a quote to open with for the trailer. I think that's pretty poetic. And the person saying this quote is Viserys Targaryen, which I'm guessing is the current ruler of the time, the current king of Westeros. And I'm curious, like, I don't know if this is the guy who Viserys from Game of Thrones is named after, because the Targaryens are like renamed 20 times.
Yeah.
So I don't know who's named after who, but he's the one who says that. And then the first scene we get is with, I'm assuming, Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra, I think is how you pronounce
I
it.
mix up their names. They're super similar. I think there's like a Rhaenyra and a Rhaenara or something. They're so close though.
Yeah, so she's walking into the throne room while Viserys' opening monologue is going off. And something I immediately noticed in this scene is the Iron Throne. And it looks way more similar to the way it's described in the books, where it's like kind of like a crumble of swords that are just like melted together by fire, where the other one looks a lot more like polished, cleaned down. Um, Honestly, I think the one from the original Game of Thrones looks cooler, but I appreciate like that this one has that style of like in the books. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Any comments on that?
Yeah. So, for one, I think that opening quote is interesting because later on throughout the trailer, he's talking about choosing an heir. So, right here, it's almost like he's already talking in future tense of how he placed his heir. But just timeline wise, I'm wondering where exactly does this line up? So
Yeah,
I
and
thought
then
that was kind of interesting.
especially because if you think about the show, I'll talk about the show specifically, honestly. The there was like visions and stuff like that, so that's not something we're unheard of, and prophecies. So maybe this was like a, I don't know, some sort of vision, dream, something like that. So that's maybe,
Flashback. I don't know.
yeah, like, is this going to be the catalyst that starts bringing up that dream, the questions of who is going to succeed me?
Yeah.
Um, all right, moving on. We cut to what looks
Oh
like a
well,
turn.
real quick.
Oh, okay, go, go, go.
So on that same part where this opening monologue is happening. Oh, I think you're gonna get to it later with like the tournament and all that.
Yeah, it
Oh,
looks
okay.
like
All right. I'll hold
we
off then.
Yeah, we cut to what looks like a tournament duel. I don't know who's fighting, but it looks cool. But it immediately reminds me of when they had the tournament for Ned when he becomes Hand of the King. Like they get to King's Landing, they immediately have a tournament. And I was
Very Game
watching
of
that,
Thrones.
having the flashbacks of the mountain cutting off a horse, like it took me back. I think, I don't know if they did it on purpose, but it was immediately like, Game of Thrones, man. What a time. But yeah,
So I have the trailer pulled up right here, and I do know who the guy in black armor is. So that is Damon. They had released a still image of him in his
armor.
Targaryen-ish armor, I guess. So that is Damon, and from the looks of it, he's getting dropped. And
You
from
think
what we've
so?
seen so far, dude, he gets his shield shattered, and then he like falls to the ground in the trailer.
He
So
he
go
looks
for it.
like an Elden Ring enemy, dude. That armor, the helmet, so like high up,
Yeah.
Elden Ring vibes immediately.
Well, at least vibe wise, what I've gotten from Damon, he does not seem like a guy that would take getting beat down lightly. Like he does
Mm,
definitely seem like a very prideful dude that's like, nah, man, you don't do that to me. And from what we know about the Targaryens, like them as a whole, they were a very prideful family, you know? They didn't like to be pushed down.
yeah, you don't
So
wake the dragon.
don't wake the dragon, no.
All right, and then we get another. Oh, are you done?
Yeah,
Are you
I'm
good?
good.
Okay. Okay. So then we cut to another. There's a lot of cuts, so I mean, we're doing our best here. We get a scene where Viserys, I'm assuming, cuts his hand on the Iron Throne, which I love because of like, that's what they say in the book, that it was so sharp that it would cut you. Um, and then we get a couple of dragons flying over King's Landing, and the last time we saw that, we all know what happened. So that brought back memories. I don't know if you had anything to
Well, quick
comment there.
quick comment there, yeah. So something I've been thinking about lately is how in Game of Thrones the Targaryens already have fallen, right? I mean, there's just Daenerys, her brother, and they're off overseas, ran away basically. But it's really easy to forget that like the Targaryens ruled King's Landing. We equate King's Landing with being the Lannisters, but it's like, nah, man, this was the Targaryens' place for a
Yeah.
while. So it's cool to be able to see like this is the times that they refer to so often in the books and in the show. So
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and I'm also excited to see King. Can you hear me?
yeah.
Okay, I'm also excited to see King's Landing in its full force because there's a lot of things, and I think they focus more on it in the books, but the TV show also of like, oh yeah, this used to be the Dragon Pit. This used to be this. Like we used to have this here. So now you get to see, the arenas and stuff like that that were you had only heard about before. So I'm really
Mhm.
excited to see that. Hopefully we get a little bit of that. All right. So then we get to a scene where what I assume is the current council, I think is what they called it in Game of Thrones, determining who will be heir to the throne. And I wonder if like that monologue that we got is in this scene where they're discussing the heir to the throne with the council. And I wrote
Mhm.
down a couple names here because Game of Thrones had good caption, or HBO had good captions. We have Otto Hightower talking. We have Lionel Strong. I don't know who that is. Like I never saw a picture of him who I could have guessed. And then we have Coriolis Valerion, who is the black guy with the really sick white dreads. Um, and this is where we are told of what I'm assuming will be the plot of the story, which is Rhaenyra becoming queen, which is what I'm guessing is happening just from this trailer. It seems like she gets chosen. Um, Yeah, and I have a couple questions,
Mhm.
or not a couple questions, but like I immediately go because they're like, oh, like you already have an heir, and it's your son. Like, oh, Rhaenyra, and I'm like, why Rhaenyra? And Otto Hightower is the one that suggests Rhaenyra, and why? Like, I want to know why that happens because in this universe, everybody has schemes and plots. So why did he suggest that, and why not Damon? And why do they decide not to pick Damon? So I'm excited to see that.
Mhm.
Thoughts?
Yeah, so I have not read the Fire and Blood book. So all this stuff that we're coming up with is
Just from
speculation
the
or
trailer.
yeah, or it's little name drops in A Song of Ice and Fire books, but we have not
Yeah.
actually read any of this. But I do know Otto Hightower is the Hand of the King. I do know that he is the Hand, and the Hightower name. I actually don't know where that came from. You do you know what that
So
is?
no, well, so I when we were watching this, I was writing this down, and I was like, I've heard it. Like, I I know it's come up once, and I was like racking my brain, and then finally I was like, you know what? I think I have an idea. So I went to. I thought where Ned Stark goes to where Lyanna is giving birth. Spoilers for Game of Thrones. Was Hightower, but actually it's the
Mm.
Tower of Joy. But he fights Sir Arthur Dane there, and I think his name is like Gerard Hightower. So
Mm-hmm.
even so, to this day, or to that day where Ned fights them, they're still connected. I'm assuming because they're fighting on behalf of the Targaryens. But that's weird to
Okay.
me because, as we'll talk about in this trailer, if I had to predict the conflict, it seems like the Hightowers are kind of in the mix of this thing of like, starting to ruffle some feathers up to get this conflict going. So that was interesting to me. But yeah, that's where I remember Hightower was from Ned Stark fighting them. Him.
Well, Otto is one aspect, but the other really big one is the guy from Valyria. That's a really big name or really big house that we haven't really gotten much about. I mean, we know about Valyrian Steel, but
Yeah,
I believe
I have
that
no
the
idea who this guy is.
yeah, so I know a couple of like little facts that I think could have big implications. So for one, this guy is Valyrian. He's from Valyria, and I believe he is the last of the Valyrian line. He is kind of the last of that family. And I believe that the Valyrians were the only other house or group of people that actually had dragons. And they don't have
Mm.
dragons anymore. So I can see
Well,
that causing some drama.
something that I also like wondering, like, are at this point, is there people who remember Valyria or Valyria? You know, like in this
Mm-hmm.
generation, have some of those people used to live there? Do they hear stories? Like, is that still like, oh yeah, we came from there and it was like this, or has it already been too long gone? I don't know. I have no idea when the
I don't know
story
either.
takes place, honestly. All right, so then boom, we cut to some soldiers pounding their chest to a beat, which was pretty sick. I love the armor; it looks very classic medieval knight fantasy style, which we didn't really see a lot of in Game of Thrones, I think. And then we see the backs of what looks like another Targaryen, and then we get a shot of two dragons flying over what I assume is dragon stones. And then we see Rhaenyra Targaryen talking to who I think, or no, Rhaenys Targaryen, which is like the older one. She has
Yeah.
like wrinkles. She looks like kind of, I would describe her as an older lady talking to the Corlears Valerian, I think. And she tells him that there's going to be some family drama by Rhaenyra being chosen to succeed. And I'm all about it, dude. I like, this is where you're like, boom, okay, this is what this show's about. Like, she's been chosen, there's gonna be strife, and then it's kind of like, there's
Mm-hmm.
never been a girl, like how are they
Yeah,
gonna
because
take it?
Rhaenyra is the daughter of the king, and then Daemon, I believe, is the brother of the king.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's a line I didn't put in there because in the council scene, he's like, I'm not gonna choose between my daughter and my brother. He doesn't talk like that, but
And that
that's
right
what he
there,
says.
I already told you, I think are going to be his death words. Like, you make a statement that bold, you know there's people scheming and plotting for who they want to take over in the succession. Like, there's going to be something there.
Yeah, there's actually
I think.
I have a little theory going on that I think the trailer kind of misdirects some stuff. But yeah, we'll get into that. And then we get two shots of another girl we don't know the name of yet, but we have Rhaenyra's voiceover telling someone, "You are the king, and your duty is to wed a new wife." Obviously, that's important, and I don't know, like, I don't know if it's like that Viserys has been, what's it called, like a widow. I don't know what you call a male widow, or it just didn't work out. And I don't know why she's telling him that. Is she's gonna succeed him right now? So like, that's a really confusing line of dialogue to me that I'm just like, what the heck?
Mhm.
Um, And then I also thought like maybe she's talking to Damon, but I'm like that doesn't make sense because he's not king, or maybe it's when she thinks he's gonna be king. And I think like if you don't turn on the trailer, the captions of the trailer, you think that it's the redhead girl talking. Um, so yeah, I think that's pretty interesting.
Well, right before that scene, and I think the monologue actually kind of bleeds over, there
Hold on,
is
pause,
that
Marcos.
scene. Oh, okay.
I'm busy.
So right before that scene where they're discussing his marriage arrangements, I believe the monologue kind of bleeds over with this, which might be hinting at something. But there's a part where Damon is approaching the Iron Throne, and he's actually wearing a crown. Which, if I remember correctly, most people don't really wear crowns unless you're like really cocky or you're like a king, you know. But for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, they don't really wear their crowns. And he's approaching the Iron Throne, and right when he gets to the foot, one of like the King's Guard pulls out his sword and places on his chest, like telling him, "Don't walk any closer." So you already can tell there is conflict here. There's stuff going down. So
Yeah, and I think I'll get to it at the end if we don't bring it up just in conversation. Uh, I think the trailer kind of sets up some deceit. I think of who they want you to think is fighting between each other. Okay, so then we cut to Viserys saying he has decided to name a new heir, and then it shows Daemon saying he is the heir. I am skeptical that that's the same interaction of like I have chosen a new
mhm.
heir, and then I think that might be trailer editing. And then we have a cut to a standoff on Dragonstone between Daemon and
Beautiful
I
shot.
believe Otto Hightower. So again, like okay, so obviously these two had a
Wait.
disagreement there. So yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
let
I don't know.
me,
You have
because
any
I
thoughts
have
on
it.
that?
I'm following along on the trailer right here. For one, I love that shot of the standoff. It looks awesome. And that's pretty interesting if it is him standing off against Otto, because I can't tell who the girl who's standing behind him is, but I believe it's the redhead girl that's been coming up. And the redhead girl is actually the daughter of Otto Hightower and the
Mm-hmm.
best friend of the young Targaryen girl who's going to be queen.
Yeah. See,
So
I can see like I watched this trailer a lot. All right, so I can see where like I think I'm gonna change your mind on some things here as we go. So we'll get to
by all means.
that.
But also
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that he's holding a dragon egg. That's kind of like
Oh,
why
he is
why
in
is he
that
holding
scene.
it?
I didn't even notice
Yeah,
that.
he has his dragon already, unless this is before it's born, but I highly doubt
Well,
that cuz all right, go
I
for
got you
it.
with something there. Well, we'll bring it up. Bring it up because there's a part where I'm like, what the heck? Okay, so now we get Rhaenyra questioning herself if the realm will accept her or not. I don't know who she's talking to there. And then we get another edit of Rhaenys, the old lady, basically saying like, "Nah, they won't. Like, you're a girl. That's just how it goes. Like the order of things. It should go the way it should go." Um, and yeah, it obviously looks, and we do know that this is a civil war between the Targaryens, supposedly. Yeah, so at least in my opinion, it doesn't seem like the older lady's on Rhaenyra's side. And then Rhaenyra starts talking about, "Oh, I want when I am queen, there's a new order," and that reminded me a lot of Dany, and that made me sad.
Yep, very Daenerys.
So obviously, that already like sucks because well, it didn't happen. Like whatever new order you thought you were gonna put into place permanently just didn't take, which sucks, dude.
Yeah.
Westeros just swallows good people and spits them out, man. Any thoughts on this stuff?
No, nothing super major here, just the names. It's going to be a whole other learning all these names type of thing.
Yeah,
Uh
this trailer definitely helped me writing their names and trying to turn on the captions and seeing who was talking. That helped me a little bit.
I do think
Um,
that the costume of the youngest Targaryen girl is super sick. That like red dress with like the gold cape on it, it looks
yeah, and then
super awesome.
that scene where she has her crown on in the middle of the throne room, fire,
Yeah,
bro.
it
That was
looks awesome.
she looks cool. Okay, so then I think this is where it starts like really hitting like the high pace of cuts. So we get a battle shot with a voiceover of Rigo Hertis saying that your family has dragons. No idea who that is. That's thrown in
Me
there.
neither.
He's a named character. And then we get some cool dragon action shots, eggs, this huge dragon with some really cool horns, which I was like, dude, that
Oh,
looks
that
sick.
dragon is Caraxes, and he is, I believe, he's Damon's dragon. His
Hmm.
name's Caraxes the Bloodworm, I think,
Magma
which
worm
is
from
pretty cool.
Elden Ring.
Pretty cool name.
And all I can say is, man, they look good, dude. Like those shots are like, ooh, like yeah, like that's like I think nobody can argue that season 6 through 8 of Game of Thrones visually were like the best thing put on television. Like I think stuff is finally starting to rival it, you know. But before that, like it was in a league of its own, and it's just like, oh yeah, don't forget that we can do this too. Not only are we good storytellers, but we're gonna put this
Yep.
out there. Okay, now and then we cut, and now we get the redhead's name, and it's Alicent Hightower, which yeah, you said was the daughter of Otto Hightower, which I didn't know. I guess I could assume it. And yeah, like this is what I'm trying to say. Like the trailer makes it seem like they're friends, and then all of a sudden it's like, nah, they're not friends. They're not friends at all.
Yep.
Her and Rhaenyra, not at
Our
all.
hearts are one. They were never one. There's that
Yeah,
line, I
and
think.
she's not talking to her. Actually, in the captions, it's
Okay.
Viserys, I believe, who says that line, and Alicent Hightower says they were never one. So I'm like, okay, is she the one who marries him? Like, what's up with
Huh.
that?
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
and did she marry him for the throne? Because then you see like I don't know where it is. I don't think I wrote it actually, but you see a
Or did
shot
the
where she's
hand
like,
marry her off to get like some sort of right to succession? Or
yeah, and then you get that shot because they're really fast paced of like, um, oh, like have you ever dreamt of being on the Iron Throne, which is the old lady Targaryen talking to her, and
planting those
then
seeds?
yeah, dude, that's where you're seeing like the political scheming that I love of Game of Thrones, and then we get a bunch of shots in rapid succession, and this dude with an eye patch who looks really cool, and more battle shots, and like it's just so much happening that like it's like you'd have to pause every second to see really what's going on, and then we have a dinner party where it looks like we're gonna have a fight, and we have Rhaenyra like holding a knife, the amazing line right here, and she's like, now they see you as you are, and I think she's definitely talking about Alyssa Hightower. I think this is where it shows
Hmm.
like, nah, you weren't really my friend, this is just a plan, and like, dude, I just hype. I don't really know what's like leading up to that, but it was sick. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I told you, that it went really fast, so it was like I just kind of grouped it all together. I'm curious, I am really curious who the guy with the eye patch is though. I don't know who that is. I don't think it's Damon.
At first, I thought it was Damon, but looking at his face, I can't tell. I mean, both of them have that like chiseled, high elf look to them, so I can't tell if they're similar or
Yeah.
not. Or,
All
but
right, so that's about it. That's all I got for now. With as far as like breaking it down scene by scene. Um, and I'll leave up your thoughts real quick, and then we can jump into some more thoughts.
yeah, I'm super excited. I think production wise, it rivals those last seasons of Game of Thrones. So that
No, I don't
looks
think it rivals
absolutely
that.
amazing.
I
You
think
don't
it's
think it
better.
rivals that?
I think it's
Better.
better already.
Fair enough. So super excited about that. I mean, I've seen some of the behind the scenes where they built these castles pretty much, and it's gonna pay off, I think, big time. It has a very realistic, very lived in look to it, which is definitely different than some of the other fantasy shows that are coming out or have come out, which I appreciate also. It gives it that very Game of Thrones look, which is iconic.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just really excited to get into the politics and the scheming. I will say now, I think Damon's going to be my favorite. I really like the edgy, bad character. And yeah, I think it's going
See,
to be a similar, like, who sides with the rightful heir and who sides with the heir that shouldn't be on the throne and stuff like that. So, but it's a
all
tense
right.
time.
So here we go. I have. I was like, I got this trailer. I was like, okay, cool. I got answers, and now I'm like, what the heck? What's going on? Um, First of all, do you know if there's going to be a time jump in this? Has that been confirmed? because the young girl, I am pretty confident, is the older one. Like it's the young girl, and then there's one that's not the old lady, but there's one like in between, and I'm like, is that her? Because she looks like a little bit more fuller in the cheeks, looks like a different actress. So I'm like, is are we gonna be getting a two like timeline story going on here of before and after type thing going on? Because like you said, there's dragon eggs, and you're like, well, they already have their dragons. And it's like, well, maybe they didn't. And the intro and the like the past timeline, and like that's the
Mm-hmm.
present timeline where they have their dragons. So I'm like, there has to be, right? Because are there two actors playing Rhaenyra? I kind of don't want to look it up because I'm like,
Oh, that's what I'm doing.
no, no, go for it. I'm just saying, like, I kind of don't. I don't care. Like, we're gonna
Do you
find
want
answers
to talk a
anyway.
little bit about the cast?
I mean, we can, but I have some more stuff about the trailer
Okay, go ahead.
going on here. No, but like, was it the same? Is it the
It
same?
looks
Is there
like it
two
because her name
actresses?
is Rhaenyra, right, with the Y.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Is there
it
two
does look.
actresses playing her?
I think so.
Yeah. So there's a time jump, dude, which is like, I love time jumps. I love when something happens and it's like 5 years later, and it's just like, oh, like, so what's gonna happen? And then another thing they're setting up that I think was like a bait is I really think they want you to think that Damon is gonna challenge for the throne. But I think Damon and Rhaenyra are gonna be homies. I think
Hmm.
that shot on Dragonstone, I think she's behind him.
Hmm.
So I think it's gonna be them two, and I think the High Towers are gonna be kind of the ones, and the older Targaryen lady. I think it's gonna
Hmm.
be kind of like the old blood and the new blood. You know what I mean?
Or it
Um,
also could be the whole people are pretty petty in the Westeros world. So he could literally just say, I don't want the throne, and then be like, well, we don't care. We have to kill you because you are a problem. Like you living challenges the throne. But I don't know. I'm on the side. I do think he's going to say, I am the heir. This is my throne, and I will take it if you won't give it to me. But
I really think him and Rainier are gonna be homies. That's like rewatching this trailer. I'm like, I think they're trying to point him out as the as who's gonna be like the her opposite. Nah, I think they're gonna be buddies.
they
I'm
might
I'm
marry
pretty
each other.
confident they
We
might
know the
like
Targaryens did
that.
that. So
That's why I thought maybe that scene of like you're a king now, you need a wed. I'm like maybe she's talking to Damon. Like I don't know. So yeah, and then another thing is, yeah, of course, like who's on whose side. There's also a character that we don't get named. He's like dark hair, kind of brown skin. He takes off his helmet at one point. I don't know who that is,
oh,
but they showed him multiple times, and it looks like at one point he fights the guy with the eye patch. So I don't know
uh-huh.
who that is. Yeah. So those are a lot of my questions. Hollywood Reporter says this is planned for 3 to 5 seasons. So that's a lot of time that they can actually, you know, work with a story for.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
that
yeah,
character that you brought up, his name is Kristen Cole. I've never heard of Cole in here, so I have no clue who that is. But it seems like they might be maybe it's somebody of significance that we'll find out later because they are doing on like the Google Cast thing. It seems like they're trying to be a little sneaky with stuff like the Rhaenyra actress. They only have that name on one actor and then the other actor is blank.
yeah, I think
But
it's
they
this
messed
is
up because they should have put Rhaenyra on the younger actor, not the older actor. Because then now you're like, oh well, that's obviously Rhaenyra. So
yeah. So it's like, yeah, I was like, I never. I've loosely kept. I've tried to avoid like spoilers because there's some people who are like, oh, like is it story of Fire and Blood for the Fire House of Dragon? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure after watching this trailer, like, there's a time jump. There has to be.
hold up, this doesn't make sense now. What princess? Okay, the older woman also has Rhaenyra.
The old lady? Are you sure it's not Rhaenys?
The I don't know. Maybe they just didn't do their thing right because the older one is listed as Princess Rhaenyra Valyrian,
Hmm.
which I think they did confirm that she's married to the Valyrian guy.
Yeah, that makes sense because they talk to each other a lot.
Oh no, that's Rhaenys.
Rhaenys,
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
you're right. I was like, what? This is some dark
yeah.
stuff now.
But yeah,